What's going on, everyone? I'm a little bit doing this a little bit different today. Going live, of course, instead of just recording an episode and editing it because I want to get my initial reaction straight to this. I am utterly disturbed, disgusted, shocked, grossed out in so many different ways. To the point where, my God, I'm just grossed out. This is one of the best Game of Thrones episodes. I'm going to start out with saying that this is easily one of the best Game of Thrones episodes ever made in the show. This is exactly what I wanted to have from this whole season. Like, I haven't been disappointed in the season yet, but I've been wanting a lot more from this season, and this is the episode that I've been wanting. Like, my jaw dropped multiple times. I shit my pants multiple times. And overall, we have a lot to talk about in this recap and review. Guys, just so you guys know, if you guys are new here, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you guys are new here, I'm doing this live. I'm going to have a live chat going at the end of the episode. I'm going to be going through the live chat and picking out some of your guys' comments. What was your favorite moments? What was your least favorite moments? How pissed are you at Daenerys? I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts in that live chat, so make sure to leave them in the live chat. And of course, if you guys catch us later, make sure to comment down below as well. Let's get straight into this. There's 36 people in this live chat right now. Again, guys, make sure to like and subscribe button. Comment down in that chat. I want to hear your guys' discussion. This was the pendulum episode. This is everything I think a lot of us were waiting for, and I think a lot of us were expecting this. And as you can see, the Clegane Bowl happened. That was probably my biggest favorite moment out of the whole episode. But going through this opened up a lot. I wrote down a lot of notes through this episode because there's so much happening in here. We're kind of just going to start from the beginning and go throughout the whole thing. And of course, if I do miss something, we'll leave a comment or a chat. But I pretty much wrote down every core moment that really affected my heart in some sort of different way. So we obviously look, and it starts with Dany. When her and Tyrion, when of course Jon Snow comes back, and he's like, "Where is she?" We see Varys. He's plotting his overthrow of Daenerys, and Tyrion goes to Daenerys and tells her, "We have a betrayal." And in that moment, I was utterly shocked not because of in general the things going on. I assumed Tyrion was going to do this, but it was due to the fact of Daenerys's look, the way that she was, like the way that the makeup was around her eyes. She kind of looked like me on how tired I am, but she looked tired. She looked sick. She looked pissed as all hell. But this is, I mean, people are giving Daenerys, and I'm gonna give Daenerys some crap later on in this episode. But I have to say that I absolutely loved her arc, and just in general, not her arc in general, but the emotions and acting from Emilia Clarke is spot on and phenomenal, especially in that moment, because a lot of what she's saying, it did go against her. A lot of people who have taken to her word have kind of gone against her. A lot of these new allies that she's gone on the way. And I think a lot of these feelings don't come out perfectly in an episode like this. Personally, for me, they did come out fine because I think this is where her character has gone to. But I think for a lot of people, it would have worked better again if this season had more episodes. I think more episodes would have structured everything more and taken time building up all these feelings. But that's a completely different thing for a different time. But I love that execution whole thing. And then, of course, speaking of executions, we run right into this whole sequence of her killing Varys with Drogon. That was a phenomenal part as well. It was really nice how they showed Drogon just come out of nowhere. But one of the big, great moments of that whole thing is, of course, Tyrion's goodbye with Varys. That's one of his best friends throughout the whole entire show, and them saying a goodbye was heartbreaking. It was very, very, very heartbreaking. Moving on even forward from there, God, man, a lot of stuff happening. But again, Emilia Clarke's performance in that whole experience was really phenomenal. And of course, I see some of you guys disagreeing that this was a really bad episode. Personally, I still think this is a really good episode. I mean, everyone's up for their own opinions, and I'm really happy I'm happy if you liked it. I'm sad if you didn't like it, but I understand that, of course, this isn't the course of the show that everyone's been wanting to go. It's different. This season has been very divisive. I really like this episode. I think it was really well done. I didn't like all the choices that the writers made, but that's for a different thing. I think all the acting was phenomenal, but there were some fantastic moments in here. Moving a little bit forward, though, we get Jon talking with Daenerys and them talking, having this conversation with one another. And again, she's just going crazy. It's building up to where she makes a certain decision towards the end of the episode to burn down King's Landing. Even though everything was perfect. And Jesus Christ, Daenerys went crazy. She literally became the Mad King by the end of this episode. But man, one of my favorite dynamics that I have to always talk about is the Hound and Arya. Arya and Daenerys are easily two of my favorite characters in the whole entire show. They've always been my favorite characters ever since they've had their experiences with one another within season 3, season 4, and kind of just moving progressively through that whole thing with every storyline that they've intersected with. I've always been a big fan of both their characters, and their dynamic, again, works well. Now, we go into this camp. We see the Hound and Arya. They're heading into King's Landing. But it's one moment in here where Tyrion goes and releases Jaime, and they get that goodbye. And in that single moment, I knew Jaime was dead. I knew Jaime, this is his last episode, sadly, but I like that moment with Tyrion hugging him. It did kind of bring me to tears just a little bit, just for the fact that, well, it's Jaime. Jaime's a big character to this show, and I think him and Tyrion's relationship has always been one of the strongest relationships in the whole entire film. Or, well, not film, but show. And I think it's one of the biggest things throughout the whole entire show, in fact, is that, well, their relationship, that was their goodbye. He knew that this is it for him if he was ever going to see his brother again. And I like that his brother, he gave him a chance to leave. And I like how this arc has changed Tyrion. He used to be such a selfish man who would only fight for himself, but this whole story with meeting Daenerys and having his experiences through season 4 and being betrayed by his whole land and his people and being disgraced pretty much off on his own has really turned him into such a better man, if that makes total sense. We move forward again. And I really just love that scene and everything that happened. Now, what happens is we see the ships. Euron's preparing to shoot down Drogon, and bam, Drogon shoots down and starts destroying everything. And I think this is where we see is that when Daenerys knows what's at stake, what she has in mind, and she's not on her high horse in a sense, she is more powerful and more dangerous when she's in that pissed off mood, as we see in episodes like this. She destroys all the ships with no things. I do think it's a little dumb, though, that she literally killed every single thing, every single ship, and Drogon did not get hurt at all. But Viserion gets fucking killed and Rhaegal gets killed. It's like, but we do see that when she is very cocky, that is when she lost her stuff. But man, her just flying in, destroying everything. It was fiery, it was fast, it was hard, and it was great. And of course, they break down the wall, and that storms in her whole army running in and just destroying the Lannister army, the Golden Company, and everyone in sight. And Grey Worm, my dude, Grey Worm is getting his revenge. He's getting his little bit of a rant, just shanking every single person in sight. Whew. But one of the great moments about this battlefield wasn't just because of the brutal, gory action, which I've actually been waiting for. I've been wanting more of this gory, bloody action. It was the fact of Tyrion walking the battlefield and seeing what Varys was talking about, seeing the thing that he didn't want to believe this whole time, but finally has seen everything happening. And man, disgusting again. Just stuff that's coming up very soon, because this is only the first half of the episode. That is what is insane about this whole thing. But moving even forward on, we see Grey Worm, Davos, and Jon. We see them walking in this certain shot with the army behind them. This was just an excellent shot that I did really want to point out in this whole episode. There were multiple moments of great cinematography in here that I was very much blown away by, and that was one of the extreme shots in here where I was like, whoa, that's an awesome shot. I got to write that down and just talk about it. And we see all the army, Cersei's army, giving up and throwing their swords out. People are screaming, ring the bells, the bells ring. And Dany says, yeah, no, that's not happening today. Flies towards the tower and just starts destroying everything. She, in this instance, became the Mad Queen. The Mad Queen that none of us ever wanted to see her become. We have cheered her on from the beginning, and this season has kind of had her turn to this. Again, I think it was a little bit rushed still a little rushed, but I think that's what happens when you only have 7 episodes the last season, 6 this season. And I definitely think now looking back, there were too many filler episodes this season. It even last. I think they could have combined it and just made it longer. I think that is what these last 2 seasons have been personally missing. And that's pretty much been my biggest issue with the show in general from the last couple of seasons. It's been phenomenal. And again, guys, I see that there's 637 of you guys in here. Thank you guys again. Make sure that like and subscribe button if you guys are new here. Make sure that like button, because that's what's really going to help this out. And again, I will be going through the live chat, reading out some of your discussions by the end of this video. So do stay tuned for that. Of course, the armies give up, but in this moment, as we see, Dany is burning everyone. Everyone is alive. It doesn't matter. Innocent men, women, children, army, soldier, doesn't matter. She doesn't even care if they're on her own team. She's just burning everything and destroying all of King's Landing, which again made me feel really disgusted, but I have to say they did a great job of making this, in a sense, become one of the best disaster films. I mean, we've seen disaster films like 2012, Twister, and San Andreas and stuff like that, but this was like a disaster film in its own. The ash flying everywhere, the burning bodies, the disrupted, tortured souls that are stuck in here. It is disgusting, to say the least. We move in forward and of course, after all this is happening, Grey Worm throws the spear, kills them all, kills one of the Lannister armies, and everyone just runs in and just starts killing every single person in sight. Does not matter. They're just killing. And you see Jon and Davos just staying back, trying to stop people from running in. Like, we are not doing this. They're retreating. What are we doing? And Daenerys' army just goes full on crazy. Blood, guts. And this is where, like, a lot of brutalness we have not seen in Game of Thrones since probably Battle of the Bastards. There is a lot of gruesome heads getting chopped off, arms getting chopped off, every single thing that you could imagine. It is everywhere. It is insane. And, you know, now looking back, a lot of people have always been wondering, there's so many different villains within Game of Thrones history. You look at Ramsay, you look at Euron, who was fucking died finally. You look at Cersei. But if you look at Dany now, it's like we watched an origin story for a villain happen behold our eyes. Maybe not the best written, but that's what's happening in this instant. We've noticed that she is the true villain throughout all of Game of Thrones. Now, I might be wrong, and you guys might not agree with me on that, but that's personally how I see it right now. She literally did exactly, she in literally from 1 second, I decided to fucking hate her now. And that sucks. I hate that, but it's the truth. And that was a big twist for me because I did not see that happening. Most shows would be like, oh, you know, she's gonna, you know, get her way, blah, blah, not destroy anything. No. The show's ballsy for doing that, and I do give the writers props on that moment. Now, of course, we see Jaime. This whole time, he's been trying to get to Cersei. Hasn't been working too easy, right? Well, it turns out when he gets to close to there, he sees the dinghy, but he also sees Euron. He's walking straight up, and they're going to fight. And Jaime gets some good licks in, but of course, Euron stabs him in the side. I'm very happy to see that Euron didn't kill him. Like, I thought Jaime died for a second, and no, Jaime does get the death in him, and fucking thank God Jaime killed Euron. I really, truly did not like Euron at all. I thought he was one of the weakest characters throughout all of Game of Thrones history. But whatever, he's dead. We don't got to worry about him anymore. Jaime gutted him and just started turning him, and again, Euron says, you killed another king, and I killed Jaime Lannister. Well, ha! On you, Mr. Euron. You didn't get shit on him. He died in the best way that he probably would have done. We see this death. That was great. But now we move on to one of the most moments that actually did get me teary-eyed in a sense. It was Hound and Arya's discussion, where he says, girl, you have to leave. If you go with me, you will die. And I think in this instance, Arya recognized that, like, her life was better, more recognized living than it was going to kill Cersei. Her revenge did not matter at this point. That is not what her father would have wanted. That is not what anyone that she's killed, anyone in her family that's died for. And I love that she left. Their goodbye was very sincere. And it broke my heart a little bit. It very much broke my heart a little bit. And I am very disgusted again in that aspect. But again, very, very, very sad in that part. But their goodbye was great, which brings me to one of the moments. As you see, I have these two Funko Pops behind me, a moment that a lot of book readers and a lot of TV fans have been wanting to see forever. That is the Hound versus the Mountain. The Clegane Bull has finally arrived with only 2 episodes to go. And let me tell you, it was everything I could have wanted and more. It was brutal, it was gory, it was gutsy, and it was emotional. And I loved it. I loved the way it started to the way it ended. The Hound just kills off all Cersei's men. And then Cersei's trying to tell the Mountain, stop. Grabs her hand and just fucking throws him, destroys his head. And Cersei just walks past the Hound, and they just go at it, fighting one another. It was brilliant of them. Just the way that they were fighting back and forth, kicking ass here and there. And for multiple moments, I'm like, oh my God, he killed the Hound, or he killed the Mountain once he stabbed him. Nope, the Mountain's still alive. Throws him, beats the shit out of him, presses his eyes in, gets the shot into his eye, does not work. And he just pushes him out. They fall into fire and they both die, which in a sense is the best way that both characters could have lived. It was very much bittersweet and also very much emotional for both of their characters and in that moment to have lived or died. A lot of that reason I say is because, and I think a lot of you guys probably agree, is, he burned the Hound's face. The Hound was pretty much born in fire with his brother. And that's how he died. I really love that whole emotional arc, and rest in peace to the Hound. He is easily like top 5 characters for me throughout all of Game of Thrones. I remember when he came back to life, or they didn't come back to life, but when we find out that he survived, I was so happy. And, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with his death now. I am very sad. I wanted him to live. I wanted to kill the Mountain. I wanted Arya to come out of nowhere and save him. But Arya was doing something else, which we will start to in 1 second. Of course, we see Cersei and Jaime do get a reunion together. It's very much bittersweet, which is weird because I've actually, for the last season, I've hated Cersei. Like, absolutely, utterly hated Cersei. But now I kind of hate Daenerys more. Like, Daenerys, like, what the fuck? But I just did a Jerry Seinfeld right there. I was like, what? Come on now. That was a really bad accent of him. But Cersei and Jaime's reunion was very bittersweet. Now looking back, though, I wish Jaime wouldn't have slept with Brienne, though. I think it takes away from that whole thing that happened. I don't think it was needed. I wish it was more just a friendship now, as excited as I was last episode. But seeing their reunion was great. And, as he goes down, he takes her. He's trying to get them to escape to save their child, but the way out is blocked off from a bunch of bricks. And he ends up holding Cersei. And I got a little teary and a little choked up on this part. I'm not going to lie on this. And I'm wondering if a lot of you guys were the same way, because I was very choked up. I was kind of distraught and destroyed in this moment, because as much as I hated Cersei, I've loved Jaime's storyline so much. And them dying together was very bittersweet again, using that word, very sweet and kind of emotional. Like, there was a lot of emotional arcs to this episode. And that was one of the most emotional parts for me, was in that very moment, seeing Jaime and Cersei die, because one of the first moments that we ever see them actually together is in that tower when he attempts to kill Bran. And it is a parallel again to that, except he's dying at the bottom of the tower where Bran survived falling from the tower. It's kind of smart. I don't know if the writers thought of that, but I just did off the top of my head. Very sweet in that moment. And I never knew I would have a big effect on a death like that. We always wanted Jaime to stab Cersei through. At least I wanted to, but he didn't, and that's all right. But now we get to the tortures of war. We see a lot of war films where they show people dying, the civilians, the innocents dying, and the soldiers might be dying, but it's the innocents, the men, the women, the children that aren't fighting the good war, the ones that are dying and being burned. We see this all through Arya's eyes, and this kind of takes me back to Battle of the Bastards. The way that they filmed Jon running through certain sequences, they did the same thing with Arya in this. I thought it was one of the best choreographed and cinematographed and just well done shot and directed scenes in the whole entire episode, because we're seeing through Arya's eyes all this death, all this burning throughout the rest of her trying to leave, which I think kind of brings me up to my prediction for the next episode, which we will get to. Do not worry on that part. But I think the tortures of war really affected Arya. And I actually now, after this episode, I could actually purely see her actually still going back and ending up with Gendry. I don't think that will happen, but I think that is an option that could happen. I actually see her ending up just being by herself and kind of just being a no one after all of this. But man, just all the destruction again goes back to how big of a disaster film this whole back half was, and how disgusting and beautiful it was, and kind of in general how gross out I felt. Again, I really, really liked Arya's character, and I think it just furthers her character arc again in how it goes. And of course, she saves some of the people and tries to save them. And she's preaching what the Hound was saying, but as they're not following the advice, she sees that they end up dying, and the Hound was right all overall, which I really liked. And again, it just affects me. So I guess that's kind of where it goes. We see her with the horse at the end, and they start riding out. Jon, Davos, they all get out alive. Daenerys gets out alive. Arya gets out alive. Grey Worm gets out alive, most likely. Drogon still alive. Very surprised by that. And we leave ourselves with some rest in peace to these deaths. Varys, Jaime, Cersei, the Hound, Euron, the Mountain, lots of innocent people and soldiers, and all of King's Landing in a sense. Daenerys has officially become the Mad Queen. I see a lot of you guys are kind of joining in the middle of this, so I do want to reiterate the same thing that I did just say, is that it is a big twist, and I think a lot of people won't like it, but in fact, when we go back and rewatch Game of Thrones, which I'm actually planning on the second next week's episode happens, I'm planning on starting from season 1 and going back through again, and because I want to realize now, Daenerys, in all this time, has been the villain. We have been rooting for a villain, someone that we thought was a hero, and that's kind of the best villains, are the villains that we root for, who think they're doing the best thing, but in reality, they are not. It's heartbreaking, it's disturbing, but it overall works for every single one of those moments. Now, again, I don't think the writing was perfect on that. I don't think it was paced perfectly, but I think a lot of that goes to being less episodes. I think easily last season should have had a couple more episodes, and easily I think last season should have dealt with the Night King, and this season should have been completely all about King's Landing and all that manner. I think it would have made for a better, well and tightly wrapped season to end everything, since the humans are pretty much the big antagonists of the whole entire show. But that's not what happened. We have to forgive that. Maybe the books will give us that instead. But I think it's very clever that Daenerys is truly the villain of all Game of Thrones. It is disgusting. It's despicable. And I really like that. And for predictions for next episode is the wrap-up episode. My God, I have no idea what to predict next. I did predict a lot of deaths in this one personally. But for me, I personally think, and before I say it, guys, I see a lot of you guys are still in the chat. I'm about to jump in the chat. There's 908 of you guys in here. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, because we are going to be talking about Game of Thrones next week. And a couple of weeks after that, I will be doing a full analyst review of this. And of course, I'm going to be going through the chat just in a second, looking through and to see what you guys have said, what your favorite moments are, and what some things I might have missed. Again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. But let's get on to my prediction. My prediction is Dany's going to die from Arya. I think Arya or Jon are the two core people to end up murdering Arya. As I was watching the episode, I was thinking maybe Tyrion will, but I think Tyrion is easily going to plant that seed within Arya, or not even Arya, sorry, Jon's head to kill her, but I think it will end up overall being Daenerys. I know there's the whole brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes. I don't really know what color eyes Daenerys has. I thought they were blue. They could be green, but who knows? Who knows in that aspect? I don't know personally. I'm not a Game of Thrones aspect, but I personally would like to see them. I want Daenerys dead now. I want Daenerys dead now, and as much as Jon doesn't want something, I think Jon is going to end up sitting on the throne, or Sansa. I think one of the two will end up sitting on the throne. One's going to stay in the north, and that's kind of how it's going to be. But overall, I do think this show's going to end in democracy, because King's Landing is destroyed. King's Landing is completely destroyed. Maybe it won't even be the main capital. Maybe now Winterfell will be. That could happen. Who knows? I guess we will find out next week, guys. I'm going to be going through the live chat right now, seeing what you guys are saying. I'm going to start all the way from the top, from when this first started, and kind of go into Slow Fudge Balls. How did Drogon get so powerful and fast in one episode? Why did the Expos suck now? I do agree. Again, that goes kind of just the writing aspect. You kill a dragon off, and again, I kind of go to the Daenerys is, she's training them and she's in charge of them, so I think that's kind of on her fault. Juz, episode 3 was shit. Honestly, this ain't a bad episode. It just isn't what y'all wanted. Straight up mad all those theories weren't correct. That's my thing. This is kind of what's happening with Game of Thrones. A lot of people are predicting stuff, and it's not happening now, and a lot of people are getting mad. But at the same time, I also understand some of the writing problems people had. Golden Company got one-shotted. Cersei died too easily. I don't agree with that. I think Cersei died in the best manner that she could have. Actually, in a better manner that I would have. Alexia Smith, she's the Mad Queen now. Arya, new Queen Slayer. That is a good prediction, to call Arya the new Queen Slayer. I hope she kills Dany. That would be awesome. And because she killed the Night King too, so that would work perfectly. Dany has been through some shit, so I can't blame her for what she did. And I'm with you on that. I'm with you totally on that I don't blame her either for any of that. But at the same time, again, now she is the villain. That's how I look on that. And Melissa Barraz says, I'm disappointed on Dany. I think we all are. I'm personally very sickened by her decision. Just completely grossed out. Chase Stagnant, the leaks are true. The ending will be even more disappointing. I've heard the leaks. I've heard a lot of the leaks were right about this episode. I don't want to know anything about it, because this is the best thing about the season so far, is I have not been spoiled for a lot. I was spoiled on Avengers Endgame for a couple sequences of it. But Game of Thrones has been that one show that I've kind of stayed away from a lot of stuff. Beth kind of agreeing with me. She is the true villain, always served herself. Even when she was freeing slaves, it always was to get power. That is 100% true, and we never really looked at that as that way. I thought Dany's army and the Golden Army would have an epic fight. I did too. I thought that would have been a little bit last longer. I think it goes down to they don't have as many episodes to work with. Daenerys to die. Yeah, I think we all agree with that. I so called everything. Well, nice to see that you so called everything. So people are saying Dany has green eyes. I see a couple in here that Dany has green eyes. So I guess she could die. Someone says Dany is Heisenberg. Going back to Breaking Bad's one of my favorite shows, so I really like that comment and appreciate that. I know she was going to go bad shit since the Dragon's Hatch. You know what? I never honestly thought that. Totally agree with that. The heel turn was rushed, but I like how it happened anyway. Dany played the hand she played in Essos, and it didn't work. It's fear then. And that's what I agree. It goes all to that. Kevin says, I love that it happened. She lost her legitimate claim, crown Aegon Targaryen, 6th of his name. I agree. I want them to pretty much crown Jon. I would really like Jon in the throne. A lot of you guys are pretty much just freaking out on Dany going nuts. A lot of you guys are freaking out about the Mother of Dragons on Mother's Day has gone crazy and gone batshit crazy. I do see a funny comment in here. Bran at home jacking off. If he can't even. Moving on. That was funny. A lot of people are saying the same thing with Bran. Someone says, where was Brianna? See, I think Brianne's storyline's kind of done. I think we'll see a little bit of her next episode, but I think she is totally done. Jesus Christ, a lot of you guys are talking about Bran and what he's doing at home. I don't care about Bran. So Grey Worm or Jon are going to have words. Absolutely. I do agree with that. Grey Worm will tell Dany, Jon hesitant. Jon will kill Grey Worm. That's a good sign. Again, but here's the thing, because there's a North army there. Could we see a Northern army fight the Dothraki and the Unsullied next episode? That would be a kind of good thing. Again, next episode is going to be a lot of the resolution, the tying up. This was the pendulum episode that they do every single time before the finale of each season. And the next one's going to tie up a lot, but it will be crazy, and I can't imagine that. A lot of people are saying Bran could be king. I know that's actually one of the top things, a lot of bets in Vegas. I would be totally pissed if Bran ends up becoming king. I'm not even joking. I would fucking throw my phone through the roof. I'd be so mad. Jesus Christ. There's 1,031 of you guys in here. Thank you guys again so much for watching this, though. I'm going to take a couple more live chats, and then we're going to get going, guys. Again, hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that like button. Again, we're at 72 likes. There's 1,000 of you guys in here. We should get that likes up to 100. And again, that subscribe button, because next we will be diving into the last Game of Thrones episode. The second it's done airing, I'll be jumping on here to talk about it. And someone just said the Lord of Light sent Arya a horse. That is a very, very, very good idea. You know what? That's a good thing. That's a good, clever sing on there. These past episodes have felt rushed, and the Hound in the Mountain shared a great scene. Arya at the end was a beautiful scene. Honestly, I thought she died when she woke up. I did too. I was very, very nervous for that. I'm going to kind of go through my last favorite moments through here. A lot of you guys are kind of saying the same thing. This was great. A lot of you guys, other people are saying Sansa will be queen. I really like that. I think Sansa's had a great progressive era in here. And now we do. A lot of people who are all against Daenerys were right, and Sansa was right. And now everyone was calling her a bitch and not understand that now. So personally, my favorite scenes in here was Tyrion's goodbye to Varys. Cersei's death with Jaime was beautiful. Jaime killing fucking Euron. I just hated Euron. I was so glad about that. Arya's and the Hound's goodbye. The Clegane Bowl was probably the big highlight personally for me. And Dany's turn into the Mad Queen was official. This last episode is going to be very diversive. I know it's going to be, and I'm curious to see how it goes. So I guess we'll find out next week, guys. Again, guys, thank you guys so much for watching this. If you guys are catching this later, not on the live chat, thank you guys so much for watching this. Hit that like and subscribe button. Check out all Game of Thrones content. I'm going to be doing a ton later down the road, talking about my favorite characters, talking about ranking all the seasons. That's all going to be coming after next week, so do look forward to that, guys. Thank you guys again so much for watching this. And again, leave down below who you think is going to sit on the throne, or if there even will be a damn throne. Well, there probably isn't now, since all of King's Landing is destroyed. I really wish we got more episodes. I really did, because I think this season wouldn't have been rushed. It's very diversive. I very feel sick because I don't know where it's going to go. But guys, I think that's a good place to end this. Thank you guys again so much for watching this, and until next time, stay classy.